seen like proper bearish conditions in a while. So I think that's why I was very hesitant in taking short plays. I think I only took one short play, two long plays. I was 1 for 2 on the week.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was just slow.
Yeah.
A lot of days to enter short plays.
Yeah.
And it was just tough for me to see the downside setups.
Yeah. Yeah. Dude, my TOS has been doing something weird. You see how that says 200? Bro, I never use the 200. For whatever reason, when I open up my TOS, it defaults to the 200-day moving average. Very weird.
Yeah, I have been seeing that purple line. But there we go.
Because you're going to see here, the 50 really guided me this week on the 1 hour. Right, you can see we bumped.
Oh my gosh, that retest on Tuesday was absolutely perfect.
Look at this, Tuesday, right, and that's what helped me enter the market short. We're gonna dive right into it. So there's been something I've been doing every single day, right? So every day, I like to gauge on larger time frames, right? Like the overall, because I think, like I just made a video about this too. It's super important, right? Like I like to be very clear on what my objective is, right? My goal is to capture a move in between the hours of 9 and 4 p.m., right? So what best serves me? What best time frames serve me, right? I like to use obviously the 2-minute, the 5-minute for entries, but like regarding, where the momentum might be headed, where we're currently at, I like to use the 1 hour time frame. And then I like to use my moving averages, right? Also, I like to use my zones. We rejected all-time high relatively well. Because, you probably remember, Sunday. I was like, dude, everything looks very bullish. And price action looked like this last Sunday. I was like, dude, this looks great. I was like, things look very bullish. I'm ready for the week, right? And then, obviously, the market had different plans, and we started to get that very intense sell-off Monday morning. So, but going back to that 1 hour, I really utilized the moving average cross here on the 1 hour on Monday or Tuesday. And I put in my pre-market plan, right? Obviously, if we held PDH, I was very bullish, but we couldn't. End of day was way up here. We were getting a large gap down, and we opened below the 50, right, on the 1 hour. We opened in the red cloud, right? The cloud was red. And you can see here, this 1 hour price action, this right here is my 2-minute entry criteria, right? Or 5-minute, right? Like when I get price action like this, we drop below the 50, we retest the cloud, and then we snap the candle in front of it. It's really bearish to me. So, hold on, let me mute someone here real quick. Okay, cool. So now I'm like, okay, drop down to the lower time frame. I'm about that 2-minute. And we started to get that real heavy sell-off, right? So I ended up taking the market short. This was a very quick trade. It was a very quick scalp. We were moving really fast, right? So you see here, here's the 50. We get open print, and then we just started to sell off really quick. So my downside target was 557.14, which was previous day low. Yep, boop. So I really wanted to target this little gap here. I'm using the structure off open print to remain bearish as well, right? So going back to that 1 hour, right? We're closing below the we're rejecting the 50 EMA on the 1 hour. We have the moving average cross, right? So and we rejected those all-time high levels. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna use this information. I'm gonna be bearish if sellers can hold open print, right? So going back, looking at this 2-minute. Sellers were definitely showing strength at open print. We were breaking market structure. So now I just need to get in the trade. And I can't really find any criteria, right? We're selling off. There's really no green bar here for me to gauge risk. And in my mind, I'm going the highest probability move is down to 557.14. Where can I manage risk? And that was one of my biggest issues this week. I'm sure a lot of traders can attest, is managing risk in these conditions. It's not easy, right? I mean, price action's super erratic, right? Just like Darren said, it's like, you may know where the market's headed, right? Like there's a very high probability we're going to head down to previous day low here. But unless I could get in a spot where I could properly manage risk, I'm leaving myself vulnerable, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna wait for my green candle. If I get it, so be it, right? And then we get this retest of the cloud here. This candle wipes out the bottom of the one before it, and at this point, I was like, okay, I'm going to put on risk here with my stop right above this candle, which still, and this is crazy. Look how this alone is still a 30% risk on SPX, like easy. What is this about? If you had a perfect entry on this, you would have still been risking 50 cents. So I felt like I did pretty good though. Caught a really quick move down to 557, right? Captured that move down to previous day low. Quick little scalp here, and it was really good though. It was really fast. It was a really quick move, and then I didn't touch anything for the rest of the day until this trade, right? And this is a trade I'm definitely want to talk about. Debo, check out the 1 hour, right? We started to get a lot of selling here. You're going to see this candle on the 1 hour wipes through the previous day low, and now I got my eye on 555, right? 555 was that real important level from last week, and initially I'm bullish. I'm not bullish, but I'm somewhat expecting buyers to show up here, possibly, and then they just don't show, and I'm using that 1 hour 9 again, and I'm letting price come into it on the 1 hour and reject it, right? So it'll reject that 1 hour 9, and it was lining up with the 2 minute 50 very well. You can see it came right into it, came right into the previous day low, where we then got that nice little rejection right there. And then we come back into the 50 again. I enter the market short again on this candle right, where was it? Right here. On this candle, rejecting off the 50, wiping out the green candle in front of it, putting my stop above this candle, right? And now I'm shooting for a larger move, obviously into 555, but then down below. And I ended up getting it. It was a really, really good move. But the only thing is I end up selling right here. I don't know what it was. I think I was trading SPX 0-day contracts. So like towards the end of the day, these get very, they're very risky, right? Because if this candle whips up, all my profits gone plus. I'll immediately pretty much go into risk. But my target to the downside, let me see here if I could pull it up, was this guy right here, and I was just blown away that we actually ended up hitting it perfectly. It was one of those things where like you make a decision, and you're like, it's because I'm constantly in my mind going, is it worth holding? Is it worth holding? Is it worth holding? And obviously, right, like in this scenario, it was. It literally cracked target. Perfect. Look at that. It was disgusting. But it was just one of those things where I was holding the trade a very long time. I was like itching to get out of it. I don't know. Oh, hold on, Darren. I muted you on accident. My bad, bro. Okay.
Oh.
Now you're back.
No, I'm just saying, that's a long time to hold a trade. It's almost half the day.
Yeah. Yeah, it was like just watching premiums going back and forth. It was 0-day. It was a really good trade. It was a phenomenal trade. Especially right here when we got that boost to the downside. But I was just like, it was funny because last week I had a lot of I would capture some pretty large moves last week. And obviously that's what I was trying to do here because my target was all the way down at 550. But it was weird. I just sold right here, and I was like, dude, what are you doing? And I don't know. It was just a really long, a long day. It was mentally exhausting, that's for sure.
Yeah, I get it. That's you're expending a lot of mental capital looking at all the candles and
back and forth. Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with taking that trade.
Yeah.
Of course, to buy at the highest candle and sell at the lowest is not really reasonable.
Right.
So you still kept a phenomenal trade. I'm sure it was over 100%.
Yeah, it was a really good trade. It was, and the thing I was really proud of was I was shorting into 555, right? Like that was a really important level from last week that I was like, it was very significant. In the past, I would have been like oh, buyers are gonna show up here. They have to show up here. And I would have came into this level really like biased because of how well it was defended, but I thought I did a really good job of like reading the price at the level, identifying the weakness, and using that 1 hour 9 right there really helped me, because I was like, if sellers reject buyers when we tap this, I was gonna get bullish. And then when this candle ended up closing below that level on the 1 hour, at that point I was like, because this is my 2-minute entry criteria, right? You wipe out that bottom. I was like, you know what? That's what's amazing about all time frames, is if it works on the 2-minute, it'll work on the 1 hour, or it at least has the same principle. So I've been trying to incorporate that a lot lately into smaller time frames. But yeah, that was my Tuesday.
The crazy sell off.
Yeah.
I mean, that was fueled mostly by Nvidia, by the subpoena antitrust situation going on there. And then that just solidified the bearish conditions for the rest of the week.
Do you know what's going on with that, Darren? Like what's that subpoena about?
I think it's I think it got retracted or whatever.
It was a rumor. It wasn't actually. There was like rumors of a subpoena, but it never actually happened. But the fear of it caused like a lot of sell-off.
Unbelievable. That's crazy. Yeah, they lost like $3 trillion that day or something crazy.
Yeah, everybody's watching Nvidia these days.
Yeah.
So I think the next day on Tuesday, I watched Nvidia heavily to put on my next trade, and it went pretty good.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that trade, Darren. Cause I didn't trade the morning. Go let you want to break that one down?
Well, zoom in on the 5-minute there, and you'll see a beautiful red bar ignored.
Right there.
In the first, right there. So as soon as we saw that, we jumped out of the little bit of consolidation we had from pre-market, and then I drew a zone around that red bar ignored, and then obviously news came out, and we sold off right through it.
Yeah.
But then we could never close below it.
Yeah.
So honestly, this was in a way, it was a risky trade just because I was trading, so close after news. But the fact that the cloud was still holding, pre-market high was holding, and the red bar ignored was holding, that was all telling me that buyers were still here.
Yep.
And the dust just had to settle a little bit before we got that move. And so I entered halfway up that green candle there, right after news. Yep, that one right there.
Oh shit.
And I held through some drawdown there, and it was rough, but I mean, I was watching those levels closely. I had my hard stop in, and I felt like it was a phenomenal place to stop out. I really felt like if we broke below the cloud, we broke below pre-market high, and we invalidated that red candle, I was happy being out of my trade, and I just had my hard stop in, and I waited.
Yeah.
And I took like 90% of my profits, like pretty near the top, and I had one runner, and then we closed below the cloud, and that's where I got out of it. Trade.
So you executed flawlessly, to say the least.
Well, yeah, dude. I mean, this is
look at that,
my
bro.
one winning trade this week. Yeah,
that's fucking awesome, bro. Like, it wasn't easy. Let's break it down, right? You got that 555 level, or you got that level right there at 550, right? You got 555, which is the upside target. Look at that, dude. So I mean, I love trades like this, level to level. You know what I mean? You have end of day right here, which was 52216, which played a mega role later in the week. We'll talk about that for the next day. But this 55240, it was 17, 55217 right there. You rip into it. I like how you didn't let that keep you from longing. What do I want to say? I like how you still identified strength underneath end of day. You know what I'm saying? You played the red bar ignored here, the cloud, very well. After news, I mean, dude, this candle right here was a $2.50 candle. So, I mean, like that, there's no one really, any trader that implements risk reward and trades options pretty much got stomped out there, whether he was long or short. But you did a great job identifying the strength there, and you pulled the trigger on it, and it paid off, bro. Look at that. It was a beautiful move up too. Almost went all the way up to 555, and you let price tell you when to get out, and you scaled out perfectly. dude, that's fucking slam dunk right there.
Yeah, this is my favorite thing to do is when you have a trade like this, you have to ask yourself what's going on in the market. You know, obviously there's bearish conditions, so I was willing to take profits before like my 1 to 3, which is like my, ideal target. I had my final take profit was going to be that 555 level, and we never hit it. I had one contract running, and it didn't hit, so I stopped out. But also, I knew that since there was news, we were going to get a lot of volatility and the candles were likely going to be ripping back and forth. And so I opened up my stop loss to account for that. And if I had
Yeah.
kept my original stop loss
Yeah, you got
that
hit.
I normally do, I would have probably gotten knocked out just
Yep.
because it did take a while for the dust to settle after that trade. So I moved my stop loss a little wider than it normally is, but it was still within that red bar ignored.
Yeah.
So it's just a classic example of how you have to take what's happening and adjust your plan slightly. And
Yep.
if your strategy doesn't allow you to hold a trade through that much drawdown, then you shouldn't be taking the trade.
Well put, bro. Well said. Because I obviously on the next trade, the trade I'm about to break down, that was the case. And what you just described, right? Being able to adjust your drawdown to actually let the price play accordingly is so important. There's a lot of traders, that they're trying to do the right thing. They're trying to keep their hard stops in at 30%, right? They're trying, and in these market conditions, you're gonna get eaten alive sometimes, bro. And I think the more important thing that you touched on there is your trade. If your trade plan is based off, let's just say a red bar ignored here, you gotta be able to account for it, right? Like, regardless, and like you said, if you can't open the stop up to, draw down a 40%, then, you gotta figure it out. Like later in the day, when I'm trading SPX contracts, zero days, I'll account for that in other ways. I'll buy cheaper options, right? So I'm more focused on the dollar value than the percentage, right? Like there's different strategies to help you accommodate that, right? So if I'm buying a contract for $300, I can risk 45% of that. You know what I mean? Because that's only $150, and then the amount of money I'll make off that trade will be $800. So now I'm risking 150 to make $700. That's a really good risk reward. So like there's other ways to implement risk reward is all I'm saying.
Yep.
Great job doing
I
that.
truly believe that the trader who survives is the one who's the quickest to adapt.
Yes.
And a lot of times, we adapt, but we adapt so slow that we wait for so much information that then the move is done, or it's so clear that everybody else sees it, and then the market reverses.
Exactly.
So I just think that it's a good exercise and a good example in being able to adapt to everything that's happening. You have to adapt your stop loss. You have to adapt your take profit.
Yep.
You have to say, okay, I'm running off the red bar ignored. That's what I'm using. You have to be like super fast at adapting, super fast at making these quick decisions, and changing your risk profile to actually let that trade play out.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, exactly. Later in the day, after we lost end of day, I really liked this move right here off this candle. This kept me from going long too, because I was looking for a move right here, and then buyers took EOD. They took back the 50. I really wanted to long this, but we were getting a real quick push up into that green bar right there, which you could see that seller came in, pushed price down, and I'm like, okay, I want to short this down to open print and below, and hopped in short, and then I go meet my daughter's teacher, and once I walk into the school, there's no service, like none, not allowed, phone done, trying to manage a trade. I mean, dude, we're all day traders. Most of us have we're doing things all throughout the day. I'm not always in front of my computer. I don't need to be. This was one of those strange scenarios where you need to go has no service. And I'm like managing this trade, and then and then I put in that hard stop like we were talking about, Darren. And I'm not saying don't use hard stops. I'm just saying be able to adjust it. You know what I mean? Because if I was able to manage this trade, I would have opened that up probably to the top of this level. That probably would have cost me 40% drawdown, maybe 50, But at the end of the day, the move hasn't been invalidated yet. Buyers did not take back conditions. I mean, the 50 was right there. Ended up getting that pushed down. I got stomped out of the trade. And it was a really good lesson, right? Where if you have things, obligations, be able to walk away. Be able to be like, yeah, a move's materializing. I got, something very important to do. I mean, I'm meeting my daughter's teacher. My girl's like, dude, you're out front trying to trade right now. Like, what the fuck's going on? And I'm like, yeah, bitch, trying to pay bills, and then I'm like, dude, you're being a dipshit. So, make a long story short, took that one right on the chin and did some journaling. Overall, I was happy with my analysis. I was happy with where I got in the market. I liked how this candle rejected the cloud, the 50, and end of day all in one. I would definitely take that trade again. It was definitely a good trade. It just so happened that they needed a little more liquidity before getting that move down, and that's boom.
Yeah. That's something we can't control at all.
Exactly.
We cannot control how much liquidity the market needs. This is another thing that I learned while I was working at Tesla is that if you do not have if you cannot be present to manage the trade that you're currently getting in, you probably shouldn't be putting it on. And if you get into a trade and then something all of a sudden comes up where you need to leave in whatever 15 minutes or 10 minutes and your trade's not really materialized, there is power in putting a stop loss in and walking away. There's definitely power in that, but at the same time, the amount of times that when I don't manage my trade, it ends up stopping me out like that. It's if I look back at my past statistics, it makes more sense just to take a small profit that I have, and then just be happy with that, than putting a stop loss in and not being able to properly manage my trade.
Yeah.
Right. That's what I learned from my past experiences like this.
Yeah.
And I have other things going on.
Yeah, that's exactly what I would recommend going forward. And bro, it's crazy because I was right out front of the school and I was like, bro, I was up like, I don't know, 17%, right? I was up like, a little bit and I'm like, dude, you could take this right now and be done with it. And I was like,
yep.
And then I found a reason. I'm like, yeah, but you're breaking your process. Not allowed, right? And I'm like, bro, who's the real asshole right now? You know what I'm saying? Like, you literally could have, exited that, and it really brought me to a different state of mind or consciousness where I'm like, dude, can you really take that win and walk away? Like, can you? Can you actually accept a 12% winner? It's been a while, bro. Like, I don't know. I might have to, challenge myself next week, right? And really be okay with, especially with the last couple weeks I've been having, bro, with a lot of really large returns. Like, I've had some really big winners, and I might have to recal the mind over here in a little bit, to not become susceptible to any more fuckery, because, that's a different combo.
I really believe that in each scenario, whether it's with news, whether it's with stuff going on in our personal life, there is a optimal way to adapt to everything that's happening in the market and out of the market.
Agreed.
And it's up to our mind. Like, are we able to look at each scenario completely objectively and say, okay, I'm going to be busy. Is the best thing for me to get out of this position with a 17 win?
Yeah.
Maybe. But I believe that there is an optimal scenario for all the random criteria that could be going on. And the more objective we are, the more we can actually see what that is and then abide by it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That was a great example of it right there. But then on to the next day. Let's see here. Boom, we got PDL. Once again, going back to that 1 hour 50 really has been guiding me. And that's exactly what happened this day. So initially in the morning, this was green, right? Oh, wait, yeah. This was green. This candle was green, and it was well above the 1 hour 50. And if you look at the price action we were getting, right? Let me whip it out on the 5 minute here. Because obviously I want to long targeting 555, right? Like if we're above that 1 hour 50, I want to go long targeting 555. I wasn't able to get a move in the morning there. And once again, if you look at these candles, they were really erratic. Just really large wicks to the upside, downside. Beautiful retest to open print in the 50. Anyone that long this, I'm so proud of you because that's literally amazing criteria with the cloud, with the open print, and everything, right? I did not long this because of 55217, right, which was previous end of day. If I showed you on SPX chart, you'll see it's much cleaner why I just didn't want to fight that level. But once that level broke, and I believe there was news too, because once that level broke, it ripped past it. Let me whip out SPX here. I want to show you guys what I was watching, because it really kept me from chasing. Where was it? Okay. Oh, okay. So yeah, right here, you see I have previous end of day. I'll just make it a little zone. So initially in the morning, I'm like, okay, I really don't want to fight this. A couple things I did like. Notice how we open below the 50 on the first candle and then close above the 50 on the second candle. That's very bullish. Like that right there, closing below and then closing above, really bullish right there. I just didn't want to fight that zone. Then we get the retest of the 50, the cloud, and open print right there. That definitely should have been long criteria for me. But price rallied, and then we started to sell off, right? So, hold on real quick. It was from yesterday's price action. We had previous day high up there, and I'm not going to lie, if price didn't move as fast as it did, I may have been entering I was looking for a cloud retest. And no, look at this candle right here. This candle wiped out the bottom of the previous candle. That's not a sign of strength, right? Like anytime, and I'm not saying every time, but sometimes when you start wiping out previous candles, it's a sign that the trend's getting weak. And I just seen that. I didn't want to long it. I chose to sit on my hands. And then notice here how price falls down, breaks below open print. And then once we come up, we retest open print. We come up, we retest the cloud, hold the 9 very well. On this candle, once we broke the bottom of the green, I was able to get in short. And I was shorting right into previous day low here. And just like Friday's trade, just learning to understand what the weakness looks like, right? Like I used to struggle a lot with shorting into PDL. Like when critical levels were closed, I used to not do anything. And I find myself now doing a much better job at shorting into like PDL and this, that, and the third, because using the 1 hour time frame and understanding how it's like what's the overall picture, right? Like, so when we say I'm looking to make the highest probability move, right? I think sometimes we're not really understanding what we're saying. So like when we reject that 50 here, right, on the 1 hour, now we've closed below the candle in front of it on the 1 hour, right? These are all signs of weakness. Like look at that blue line there, that 9 DEMA on the 1 hour. We closing below it, right? Especially after just closing above it, and now we're rejecting the 50. This is where my mind goes, okay, what's the bearish play today? Right? And I go, okay, well, if we, buyers didn't hold it, we're probably going to sell off into PDL and then below. So I had previous day low as my first target, and then I had this pre-market level here at 5463 is what we ended up ripping into, and I took profits at. But like using that larger time frame to paint the picture as if it was Pictionary, right? Like think about it. You guys ever play Pictionary where if you're playing Pictionary, right, like you're not going to be able to get the answer right if you're not watching the person drawing the picture, right? I heard this analogy on Instagram the other day and I loved it. It's like when you're playing Pictionary, the person's drawing something on a piece of paper and you need to guess what it is, right? The 1 hour time frame becomes that piece of paper. And it's like, okay, like when you see it rejecting the 50 on the 1 hour, it's very hard for me to become bullish. You know what I'm saying? Like in this scenario. So that really helped me, be able to short into PDL and capture a pretty nice move down here. And obviously the green bar ignored helped a lot as well here. Just regular candlestick analysis. Boom, get the green bar ignored, take the short, put the stop above it, and take her down into 54867. And then
Great setup.
yeah.
Hired time